This is episode 0038 of Gary's Glorious Golden Nuggets. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you I am so excited about this podcast today. We have with us today E.A. Csolkovits. I just want to give you just a little flavoring. This man has accomplished so much in his life. He's an inspiration to me. He started working at age 16, selling janitorial services on a commission basis to business owners. And he worked his way up to becoming a CEO, creating something called Givers University, which I'm going to ask him to tell us more about. But this man has a philosophy of providing so much to people with the idea that if you give them sufficient or more than sufficient, they will want to be your customers. And I love the concept and I love the ideas of what he has going on. I also want to give credit to Sam Robbins, who is a gentleman that he met early in his life. And he was taken under and mentored by Sam Robbins. And again, we'll ask EA to discuss all of that. So let me welcome you to our show today.
Thank you so much, Gary. Thank you for having me on your show. And any show that has glorious nuggets has got me. That was awesome. I saw that the first time. I said, I love this. This is great. I like this guy already. He's awesome.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. You know, I just believe that just by having a conversation with people who are successful, you are just going to drop golden nuggets everywhere. And people, if they're paying attention, will find what they need. And if they don't, they just got to discard it and keep going because the wisdom and the experience is all there. So let me start off with my first question I like asking. And that is, what do you wish you had known before you began the journey of being an entrepreneur?
The things that simply are not taught today and that we even today don't see being taught anywhere. And that is the following: how to discern who we want to have closer to us and how to discern who we should not have or should have respectful distance from, not only in the broad swath and the nebulous, innocuous references that we usually hear, but I'm talking about the very specific details of what to look for. Because I'll guarantee you, if I asked all of your listeners right now, in fact, I will, if you were to think about the fires that you stomp out every day, if you were to think about the instances where your stress levels skyrocket, I bet you dollars to donuts, there's a name attached to it. And so what do we do when we become unwilling collateral damage in these events that have brought into our lives? So what we teach really at Givers University is how to discern. We say that givers earn more because they discern more. And we teach people how to look for. And I want to mention, Gary, that when we say givers and takers, we're not labeling people. We love everybody. We love everybody. But what we do is we teach people to separate the person from the deeds, separate the person who we love from their deeds, which we may not love. And by looking for specific actions and deeds, we can decide who we want to pull in closer to our lives and who we may want to consider respectfully distancing ourselves. And these things simply are not being taught today. I'm a self-improvement geek. I know you are too, right? We already talked about it. And I love self-improvement, an hour a day. But no one's teaching us, how about the other guy? What if he's not doing it right? What do we do? And what should we be looking for to have our life happiness increase and our productivity increase? So I would have liked to have known the 2/3 that no one taught me, that I had to learn through my 3 major defeats, on how do you discern the details you look for. The kind of thing where they say, when you can no longer say, well, how do I do that? Because you're already at its common smallest denominator. The thing you're talking about is exactly how you do it. It's not the nebulous reference. And then at the end of it, you go, okay, well, that sounded good. How do I do it? So we're going to give them some glorious nuggets today, Gary. Compliments of you and your great podcast.
Thank you very much, EA. I appreciate that. So you kind of made reference to 3 great defeats in your life, 3 great situations where things didn't work out the way you wanted them to.
Yes.
Would you please share that with us? Because I think there's a lot of wisdom there.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And happy to do it. First, to digress, my upbringing was the son of a milkman. You know, I was born in Chicago. I live in Michigan now, but for the first 30 years of my life, my father had his own milkman route. I was the son. And then, Gary, I went on to future huge success, and I became a janitor. And I thought, man, this is a perfect job because, you know, business is always picking up. So, and then it was. But there was a really interesting thing that happened when I was a janitor. I was in the Chicago area. I lived outside of the Oak Brook area, actually, right next to it, suburb of Chicago. And so I was very familiar with the McDonald's phenomenon that had taken place. And I was able to be bonded at the ripe old age of 16. And I met this lady, and her name was June Martino. And June Martino had the third most controlling stock in McDonald's. If you ever saw the movie with Michael Keaton, the founder, right? He references his secretary, he calls her June. That's her. That's right. Okay. Except, I mean, that's an actress, but in real life, that was the lady. Mm-hmm. So every week I was cleaning her house, right? Mm-hmm. And we saw each other. She knew me. She saw me every week, so she knew who I was. And one day she looked extra happy. I thought, oh, this is it. And it took every bit of, I mustered up my courage, you know, because here I am, a janitor, right? Buffing her floors and cleaning her house, this big mammoth house. And I went up to her, I said, hi, June. She goes, hi. You know, she knew who I was. And she was also very approachable, easy, you know, smiley. She wasn't like, you know, real stuck up or anything like, just the opposite, very approachable. And I said, can I ask you a question? She said, sure. And I said, well, could you tell me about it? And she said, well, what? And I said, well, the whole McDonald's thing. I'm not kidding, Gary. She put her arm around me, brought me in the kitchen, and told me all day long the entire story from beginning to end. And I mean the details. And I can share with you that the Michael Keaton, you know, Hollywood, that was very Hollywoodized.
Right.
Yes, there were certain events that happened just that way, and that's true. But a lot of it was, you know, extra drama they threw in and all that didn't happen that way. But one thing June did mention to me, as and she's telling me this, I'm going, oh my God, this is June Martino. This is her, the lady, right? And you got to remember, I'm a janitor, milkman son. There's where my mind is, right? That's my mindset. And I'm meeting this person who I love to clean out the garage because I have to pull out the Rolls Royce each time. And I'm thinking, people really live like this. And she's a regular, she's not a superhero. She's not an alien or something. She's like a regular person. So I asked her a question, Gary, that gave her pause. And the answer, when she gave it, made my hair stand up on the back of my neck, because it was not only what she said, it was the way she said it. I asked her, when she told me that there was a time, and by the way, it's referenced in the movie, where they weren't making enough money and he realized his percentages weren't enough. So he had to call the brothers, say, I need more money. Right. That's true. And Ray couldn't afford to pay her. So he paid her in worthless stock in the company. Right. So I asked her, I said, June, you know, I work paycheck to paycheck. I get paid on Friday. And if I don't get paid on Friday, I'm not there on Saturday. I'm not showing, you know, I need that paycheck. Why did you do it? Why'd you work for nothing, not getting paid, and then get paid worthless stock on top of it? It's almost insulting. Why'd you do it? And she looked back at me with this blank, vacant stare, looking right at me, eyeball, but I could tell she wasn't there anymore, and that this snot-nosed 16-year-old just asked her a question no one had ever asked her before. And when she answered, it floored me. And the way she said it, when I said, why'd you do it? She said, because I believed in Ray. And my first thought instantly was, I got to find me a Ray Kroc. I've got to find a Ray Kroc that can take me under their wing and teach me and someone I can believe in the way she believed in Ray. Because look what happened to her.
Right.
Because at that point in my life, I'm thinking, you get rich and then you get happy. I didn't realize I had it backwards. You got to be happy first and then you get rich, right? So, and it wasn't a couple months later, I met my business mentor and he became my Ray Kroc. But it was interesting to, you know, even as a janitor. So, and the meeting that we had was quite interesting. And it really is a testament to, Gary, the most significant things that will happen in our lives are usually the result of something which at the moment seems insignificant.
Absolutely.
So we got a phone call at the office, the janitorial office. And this guy's opening a diamond business. He's in from Michigan. And Detroit, and he's opening a diamond store, and they want an estimate on some carpeting. Only the boss and I are there, janitor boss and I. Can you go show him some carpeting? I said, Jerry, I don't know anything about carpeting. He's, well, measure this way, measure that way. Call me on the phone. All right. And I said, Jerry, I already punched out. I'm not going. Yeah, I'm done for the day. He said, I'll tell you what, I have to stay here. If you'll go, I'll give you any Saturday off you want. And for janitorial service, Saturday's a big day because businesses are closed. We got to clean, right? So I'm thinking, all right, this is great. I get Saturday off. And so sure enough, I negotiated my Saturday off. I'm going to meet this man begrudgingly who's going to change my life forever, my mentor. So I show up and we knew it was just, have you ever met someone, Gary, who you felt like you knew him before?
Absolutely.
I mean, it was such an immediate reference, bond and comfort level. Mm-hmm. We talked about everything. He wasn't interested in the carpeting because we had commercial grade. He had a diamond store he was opening, so he wanted plush, so nothing happened there. And as I was leaving, he offered me a job. I said, oh, man. I said, I'm all set, man. I'm a janitor. My life's all laid out. I'm good. People can make a mess. I can clean it up. And he hooked me as I was leaving. He said, what do you have to lose? And I drove about halfway home and I thought, he's right. I could always go back being a janitor. Went back. He offered me a job and he became my mentor. And I have to say, I was so blessed to be able to have someone. And that's why I can share with your listeners, be careful on who you choose as your counselor and as your mentor. But once you have chosen and once you've decided, heed them and listen to them. And there's so many times that I was so thankful with the things that he taught me on how to reconnect those burnt out wires that were in my mind, brought about, which subsequently, and even with my 3 major defeats, which were forthcoming, it was because of his mentoring on the side that helped me build on these defeats instead of hiding behind them. And I got to tell you, I was very, very thankful. So with your listeners, learn from people who, and not the ones who can, they've often said the definition of an expert is anyone that lives more than 50 miles away, right? And don't get those as your experts and mentors. Get the ones that have done it. And if they don't have some scars on their shins, then you should distance yourself. So what we do and what we learned, and back to your first question, was I began to learn how to discern. What do I look for? As an example, someone had a cold, the symptom would be itchy eyes, runny nose. Those are symptoms. And I could see those symptoms, but it might be because they have a cold, the cause. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what symptoms to look for with other people. See, I was always look in the mirror, check on yourself, grow yourself. No one was teaching me, what do I do to not become an unwilling participant when someone else brings with them the 3 Ds of a taker that we call defeatism, disruption, and destruction. They bring with them those 3 Ds. And you're going to be an unwilling participant and unwilling collateral damage when they come in. So what if you're not there? What if they're not in your life anymore? Doesn't mean we don't love them. We respectfully, not nasty, but respectfully distance ourselves. And we surround ourselves and build this, what we call giver community. We teach people, how do you build this community of people around you? Because 20% of the people are wired as givers. You put them in any situation, doesn't matter what it is, family, business, social. They will figure out how to start giving to it. And they will contribute. Yes. They will invest. Conversely, the other Grand Canyon extreme is the takers. 20% are takers. They will figure out how to take morally, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, financially. They're just wired that way. And the 60% in the middle, we call them fencers. They sit on the fence. They act like givers when they're with givers. They act like takers when they're with takers. They can be great relationships, but we need to manage them closely. So how do we discern? What do we look for? And one of the things I want to be able to share with your listeners, Gary, is some real nuggets. And we can talk about the 7-question quiz we have later on. But we like to actually give them, these are the 25 do's. We give them a checklist. These are the things you watch for, the 25 do's. When you see someone doing these things, these are the things. Watch the things, not what they're saying. Watch what they're doing, right? And when you see these things, you may want to think, man, I want to pull them in closer. This is the kind of person I want around me. It's part of my giver community. Or conversely, when I see these 25 things they shouldn't be doing, maybe I should think about respectfully distancing myself, because I'm going to be stomping out fires that will not be of my making. And I promise you, your listeners can think of fires they're stomping out today that are not of their making.
There is so much wisdom And you have just tossed out so many golden nuggets in the first, 12 minutes we've been working through this podcast already. Folks, go get yourself another truck because you're going to need, what this man's going to be offering. I am just so, hey, you just, you told me you were going to over deliver. Yeah. Okay. Continue. I'm just so excited. Keep going.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share and to be value. And one of the things that we do as givers, and we teach people this, when you're a giver, people may take advantage of you, but you are never diminished. See, that's the part they missed, the second part. People may take advantage of you. Expect it. It's going to happen. But you're never diminished because they did that. You will get that back. It'll come back to you from another person, unrelated, another situation, another circumstance, another event. You will get that back. So give. And when you're through giving, give. And when you're through giving, give. You'll never be diminished by giving. So we teach that with people, and we teach them, discern. We're so fast today, Gary. Businesses coming and going and closing and opening. Products antiquated so fast by other products, faster than ever before in history. And when all of that comes and goes, what do we have left? Our relationships. And no one's teaching us today. And that's where we stepped forward and said, we got to start teaching this. How do you discern? Who do I want to bring in close? Not because we're judging them. We don't put labels on them. We label their deeds, not the person. When we say someone's a giver, they're a giver. When they're a taker, they're a taker. But we're not labeling that. We love everyone. We're labeling their deeds. Discern the deeds. Those are the itchy eyes, the runny nose. Here's specifically what you look for, and the causes there automatically. And so we get right down to the specificity. Look for this. And my first major defeat brought about the writing of the first book called The Giver's Mindset. There's actually a series. It's the foundation of Givers University. The series of the books is called Give to Be Great. Giver's Mindset is the first book. Giver's Lifestyle is the second book. Giver's Lifelong Learning is the third book. And there's audio courses that we have with Givers University as well, 15-minute segments. So one of the things I like about your podcast, you keep it a nice bite-size sort of commute learning, people go back and forth learning. So the first major defeat that came about in business was, betrayal from a business person. I don't know if you remember, years ago, there used to be voice-actuated recording devices you put on your desk before it was all digital. Remember outgoing message and ingoing tape, incoming messages, right? I left my home for an hour and a half, came back, hour of messages. My business partner, who I own 50% of that company with, separate from my mentor, he was still mentoring me. We had a training company in the Midwest, very successful, training other businesses. He called me and left me a message on my machine while I was gone. And I could hear in the background, that tone when he was getting a call coming in. Remember that beep? It was beep, beep.
Right.
Let you know someone was calling you.
Right.
While you were talking. I could hear that tone in the background on the recording. The person that called him and him had a 1-hour conversation on how they were going to take over the company step by step and push me out of the picture. Let me tell you, Gary, when you hear it in their words, not third party, but you hear them saying it word for word, what they're going to do. And I thought, after a sleepless night, the emotions that go with it. And I had to go back to what my business mentor taught me. Do not allow your emotions to rule your intellect. When you allow your emotions to rule your intellect, you are in reaction mode. And from psychologist training and stuff, when they're reacting to something, that's not good. Give them medication, they react, that's negative. If they're responding to it, it's better. They're improving, right? So, and what happens is people get in these reactionary modes because their emotions are ruling their intellect. When our intellect rules our emotions, we're in responsive mode. So I had to get in responsive mode. And so I just pulled up my training, and I never, by the way, the next day I said, Jim, you have to buy me out. I knew I didn't want him as my partner. That was going to ruin all of his plans. And 1 year later, we separated in less than a week, which was what I told him. I said, we have 7 days. I'm going to go do some things with my business mentor. In 1 year, he filed for personal bankruptcy, business bankruptcy, got divorced. And I saw him in an amusement park at a distance And I mean, I knew who it was. I recognized him, but he didn't see me because a little bit of distance with us. He looked like he had aged 20 years. And that same year, I had doubled my income. And the reason why was because my business mentor taught me every adversity in life, not some, not once in a while, every adversity in life carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit.
Absolutely true.
And so I had to build on that. And that caused me to write the first book called The Giver's Mindset that has the 25 do's in it that we're going to give to your listeners when they do the quiz. They're going to get the whole 25 in a checklist. And when they look at it, they're going to go, oh, this is great. This is something really immediately usable and applicable that's going to help me discern who I should have closer in my life and who I shouldn't have, or maybe be respectfully distancing myself. So can I give you a couple nuggets that are on that 25 do's?
Absolutely. Please do. I mean, I'm just dying to hear them.
All right. One of the things that we will see that takers do, that givers do not, is takers are not willing to delay gratification to increase their returns. Everything with the taker, you'll see them go, now, me, pay me up front, pay me up front. I'm not doing anything till you pay me. I'm never going to do anything till you give me first. Okay. By contrast, think of the June Martino story. Right. She delayed her gratification, right? She said, you just pay me in worthless stock and that's okay. She was worth 2 zeros I couldn't put on my fingers and toes, right? So, yes. I mean, so when you see someone who's doing that, that helps us discern. Another thing is that givers are willing, we have a saying, it's called in Givers University, do the thing to get the thing. Do not the thing to get not the thing, but something else. In other words, givers will do what is required to get a thing, whatever it is. And a thing doesn't necessarily mean a possession, right? And it could be an accomplishment, whatever. By contrast, a taker is not willing to do what it takes. They'll always be shortcutting. They'll always be looking for a way to glom off of someone else's results or someone else's deeds. And when you see them doing that, when they're not doing the thing to get the thing, do I want to have this person closer to me? Or should I be respectfully distancing? And they're going to get a whole list of 25 things like that to look for. That will be an immediate 2-page checklist that immediately they're going to say, oh, this is great. I really needed to learn this thing. Gary, just no one's teaching it today. We're so fast and going forward. No one's teaching us how to discern. We need to discern more. And then our actions, our productivity, our happiness all goes up when we've discerned more upfront.
I have people right now listening to this podcast who are there like, okay, quit teasing me. Where do I go to find this thing? So what's the contact detail?
Simple.
EA, what is the contact detail?
Go to Givers, plural, www.giversuniversity.info. And when they go there, they're actually on the first page of a 7-question quiz. They're actually there. They're already in the quiz. So they just simply answer the 7 questions. They'll actually get a free assessment. There's different answers that we'll give them based on their questions. And the name of the quiz is, what is your giver's taker's awareness IQ? How aware are you? What are your observation skills? And it's just 7 questions. So it's 5 minutes or less. But then what happens is we give them a free assessment. And then after that, they get a couple of downloads from us. Every one of them are usable, immediately applicable, including the 25 do's I just mentioned.
Ladies and gentlemen, that will be in the show notes. So if you're driving right now, just keep driving. Get the show notes. We'll have that all there exactly correct for you. All right. So keep going. EA, tell us more about Givers University.
Okay. Well, we have 48 lessons actually, and they're all 15 minutes in length. And it's based on that foundation series of Give to Be Great. There's 16 lessons with the first course book, which is called The Giver's Mindset. How does a giver think differently than a taker? I want to mention that when someone's in temporary taker mode, which I've been in temporary taker, there's things we can do to get out of that mode. And we teach them how to do what's called a data reset, D-A-T-A, declare and turn around data. We do a data reset. We teach them in the 3rd book how to do that. So the first book, how do they think? How do givers think differently than takers? How does our self-talk, the thousands, and I mean, as you know, Gary, from your experience and your high level of expertise and training, all the conversations people have with themselves in their own head every day, thousands of them, not just one or two or a few hundred. These are thousands every day, right?
Yes, every day.
How those influence us when we label something incorrectly. And like, when we say something's a failure, when it's not a failure, it's a temporary defeat.
Right.
And when I first said failure, my business mentor corrected me. He says, relabel that. It's a temporary defeat. I said, and he said, don't be surprised if your temporary defeat, when you got tackled, you got a first down in the meantime.
That's
he
true.
said, don't be surprised. The game's not over.
Right.
So, eternal, failure always seems this eternal thing, and it's not. It's a temporary defeat. And since every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit, we should then be embracing defeats. See, when we can reach that mindset, when we can embrace a defeat, welcome it, and know that with it was the blessed seed that will help us grow and go the next step. Because too many times in our life, Gary, we find our calling on the road we took to avoid it.
Just like good old Jonah.
Jonah's a classic example.
His classic example. Yeah, absolutely.
Even with the gourd.
Yeah, that's right.
Even with the big gourd, he had to learn. He said, wait, you told me that wasn't going to happen.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And so we want to share with your listening audience the 2/3 that just isn't being taught today. The giver's mindset, how they think, the giver's lifestyle. And there we identify the 30 habits to look for. What are the 30 habits that givers will do over and over again? Recognize these things, observe them. What are the 30 habits of takers? So the course actually is about 60 habits, the 30 and the 30. And then the third book is Giver's Lifelong Learning. What are the 4 questions that every giver should ask themselves before they make a decision and before they do an action that will almost seem as though they can foretell what the result will be, because they're asking themselves questions no one else does before they make their mind up on a thing. And so we wanted to be able to, as Givers University, be able to help people discern. Givers earn more because they discern more. Givers gain, takers lose. Where do we want to be?
I think everybody can see that clearly. We all know people who have all the gifts and all the tools, but because of their mindset, they fail.
Exactly.
And they're unwilling to humble themselves, to be teachable, to learn how to get there better.
Yes.
And we all know people who don't have any of the tools, who don't have many of the skills, but they're humble and they're teachable. And how did they get there? It's because they were mentored along the way. And I think what you have is fantastic. So we only have a few minutes left here. And as a hallmark of the show, I give every person 2 minutes uninterrupted to say whatever they want to say to the world. It doesn't even have to be about Givers University. It can be whatever's on your heart. Mm-hmm. And so your time starts now.
Well, thank you. I would say, first of all, invest immediately in absolute, consistent, never-ending, set-aside time to read the Bible. And because the lessons are in there, and to make a commitment for that, and to have our priorities in order. The priority order that we teach at Givers University, and I personally want to live by: intelligent design, God, family, country, business, self. Notice where self is, 5th. And today, everything's so fast, and me too, me first. And one of the easiest ways to distinguish ourselves from the rest of the world and from other people, and to set ourselves apart, is do what the rest of the world isn't doing, and that's giving. I can share with you that there is value and strength in being able to invest in other giving relationships and simply become more discerning. Share with other people Gary's golden nuggets. Share the podcast that Gary Jenkins brings to everyone, and how important this is, so that they can see that this is great information. And for the person who is not a sophomore, there's freshmen and sophomores, and the freshmen are the ones that are, when you're green, you're growing. When you're ripe, you're rotten. And the green and growing humble person will always succeed because they're green and they're growing all the time. But the person who's the know-it-all, who is one of the taker's attributes, they know it all already. They've been to one seminar, they read one book, they took one course, and they know it all. Begin to distance yourself because you're about ready to become collateral damage. And Gary, thank you very much for having me on your show. And I pray that your listeners share your podcast with others, because more need to hear this. And your format's great with the quick format, driving to and from work. You can hear the whole thing. Well done, friend. Well done.
Well, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that is EA, a master teacher, a servant leader. And I am so glad that you met Sam Robbins in your life to mentor you, and that you are sharing that wisdom with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed this podcast and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you really like the wisdom that you heard today, please do share this. Share it widely. There are people who are dying for the message you just heard. Their business is dying because they don't know these simple truths. And all this show is about is sharing with you truths that aren't being discussed. And the golden nuggets are everywhere in this room. Thank you, EA. I just feel like you walked around a bag of gold nuggets and just kind of tossed it every step you went. They're all over the place, ladies and gentlemen. Just find them. So I thank you. I thank you so much, so profoundly. Ladies and gentlemen, the contact details for that questionnaire and everything will be in the show notes. Please do access it for your own benefit and enlightenment. And with that, I will thank you for attending the podcast, and you'll catch us on the next one.